Hey family, it's Raven Epiphany. I wanted to come in and say hey. I just came back from Greece and what a beautiful experience that was. Like, there's so much more that I'm sure that I will be sharing about what God did there. It was such a blessing to just be there with such beautiful women, with such beautiful souls and spirits, and just be in a space where we were all able to show up as our authentic selves and, go away for a minute and enjoy the scenery, enjoy the beautiful food. Like, the food there was ridiculously fresh and tasty and all of that. And one of the biggest things, like I said, that I got from that was being able to be this new level of my authentic self around women who, embrace that with no question. I think that, I've talked about authenticity before, but one of the challenges, or I guess one of the things that has to happen before you're able to truly show up authentically, is you have to be able to do that with yourself and God first in order to then share that with anyone else. And that, level of being open, transparent, and authentic before God and within yourself about the things that you truly desire, the things you truly like, things you truly dislike. And, in that space, doing so without the judgment or the expectations or, the constraints that the world often puts on you or around what you, should be, quote unquote, doing or saying or being or whatever else. That can be a very vulnerable space. I won't say it can be. I think that it is a very vulnerable space, but it's very necessary in order to get to the point of showing up as your authentic self in the spaces that God puts you in. And, in order to pursue the things that God would actually have you to pursue, and most importantly, to be that person that God would have you to be. A person that not only are you proud of, but a person that you truly resonate with, and that you have not created or built based on, people pleasing, or based on what you feel like is available to you, or based on, whatever limiting ideas or beliefs you may have had, knowingly or unknowingly. And so, in the time leading up to Greece, that's something that I just sat with God about for, a few months, honestly. And in that, something that began to happen is I finally admitted to God aloud some of the things that have been quietly in my heart for a while. Things he already knew, things he had already began to put me in motion of moving toward, but things that I had not yet admitted aloud to myself and had not admitted aloud to God, that I truly desired, that I truly felt called to, that I truly felt like, I was meant to have. I don't know what it was. It could have been a bit of unworthiness. It could have been a bit of fear. I think there was also a bit of guilt surrounding the idea that I could attain or obtain something so easily, even though it would be by God's grace. A part of me was like, no, I have to work for this thing. No, it can't be that easy. Being someone who's used to working hard and getting good grades, working hard and achieving goals, working hard and, whatever else, there's this transition that has to happen where you go from, the pride of being able to say, I worked for that, I earned that, to being able to switch into the place that you allow yourself to dream beyond what you can obtain on your own, and you make space to ask God for the things that only he can do through and for you. And then you create that space to allow him to actually do it for you, and you have to be okay with the idea that when it all happens, when it's all said and done, you won't be able to say you worked for it. You won't be able to explain how it happened. You won't be able to, give someone the 10 steps to get there. You will simply have to say, I made space, I asked, and God did. And so that, requires a level, like I said, of authenticity and vulnerability with yourself and God about what you really desire. And then it requires a humbling. Like, I definitely went through a humbling process, and not in the typical way that people would think. It's not like about being conceited or anything like that. It's more so a humbling of, like I said, going from that place of being used to being able to say, yes, I earned that, I got my degree. Yes, I earned that, I got straight A's. Yes, I earned that, I did X, Y, and Z. Here's how I did it. You can do it too. To saying, I ain't even gonna hold you. Like, I don't know how it happened, but God did it, right? And it's also a releasing of control in the sense that, if God's going to do it, you don't necessarily always have to see all the steps. He's just going to guide you moment by moment, tell you where to be, what to say, who to be around, who to serve, who to allow to serve you, whatever it may look like. But it's just a moment by moment faith journey with him, and allowing him to do whatever it is that you've been asking for. And so there is a humbling in that sense, where it's just like I have to submit and allow God to do his thing, because the things that I truly desire going forward are things that I cannot earn on my own. And so, getting quiet with yourself, getting quiet with God, and getting honest about what it is that you truly desire is so important to going into whatever the next season is, so that you don't end up building or striving for or pursuing something that isn't even in alignment with God's will for you, and isn't even in alignment with what you truly desire. And so that, I ain't gonna hold you, was a process. I won't say it was hard, but it was a process. It was a process of shedding. And it also means that once you decide and really get honest and come to terms with what you truly desire, those things that maybe you were keeping quiet previously, then you will have to then shed those things that don't align with that anymore. There will have to be that process of realigning your life and allowing God to realign your life, so that things are in alignment with what he truly has for you and those things that you truly asked for. And so that means that some relationships may end. That means that certain jobs you may have to leave. That means that certain things that you were pursuing you may have to let go of in order to go in the direction of the things that you have asked God for and he has said yes to. And so that's definitely a journey that I've been on. And for me, it's been a realization that there are certain things that even in recent times that I've kind of built and began to pursue that were not from God. They weren't sin, they weren't bad, they weren't anything that God was angry at me for. But I realized, like, that's not even in alignment with what you asked for, girl. That's not even in alignment with what you truly desire. And so having to let those things go, there's even a humility in that, and a humility in realizing, what, I built this thing in a place where I was pretending, and maybe not even actively pretending. Maybe it was like where I wasn't, fully in a place to know that I'm worthy of the things that I'm truly asking for, or knowing that the things I truly desire are even possible for me, and having to come to that humble moment of saying, you know what, I started going in this direction and I realize now that is not in alignment. So I need to turn around and go the other way, right? And so with that, I just feel like Greece was a beautiful moment, a beautiful pivot, a beautiful, what's the word I'm looking for? When you're playing games and there's a certain point at which they save, it's checkpoint, I guess, a marking space for a turning point in my life, a turning point, of the things that me and God had, finally come to terms with, and that he had actually said yes to. Greece, I would call it a thing, I would call it a God said yes moment. Two things happened. One, even me getting to Greece was a testament of him saying yes, because when I, signed up for the trip, I did not 100% know all the plans, all of that. I just know that God said yes, that I could go. And so I had to trust him every moment, for every payment, for everything along the way, for buying my flight, for spending money to get there. And God was faithful and got me there. And then I knew he would meet me there. And when he did, looking out over the beautiful landscape of Greece, he began to minister to me and really just affirm that he had said yes about the things we had been talking about. He said yes about this place of rest that he would have us as his children to live in on a regular basis, and the ways in which, I had been praying and seeking him about and asking, for it to look like in my life. He said yes about that. He said yes about some of the things that I had not even previously admitted aloud to anyone. And he, used other women on that trip to affirm that yes in such a beautiful way. It was the first time I had ever admitted aloud to other people after finally, like I said, in that secret place, admitting it to myself and admitting it to God. And I was able to share it on that trip aloud with other women who I had only first met on the trip, but I felt like we were so spiritually connected. And when I did, It was received so much easily than I could have ever imagined. It was received with so much love and so much support and so much affirmation. And here's the thing, when it's just you and God, you have faith in what he says. You don't need to wait for man's validation in order to move forward and to have faith in what he said. And also, God is gracious and faithful enough to then send people who will be able to confirm and affirm the things he said to you. And that was a beautiful blessing of being in Greece as well. My voice was probably cracking when I said what I said, and literally it was like, oh girl, like God is gonna do that for you. And it's just like so much outpouring of support, wisdom, nuggets, not even just affirmation of the dream, but affirmation of just how, beautiful it will be when God did it. I just felt, I don't know, supported in that moment in such beautiful ways. And I feel like I left there so full, left there feeling like, even more confident that God had said yes. And I left feeling like I can't come back here and do any of the same things I was doing previously, because God said yes to my new life, right? God said yes to the things I had truly been asking for. So now I gotta walk out of Greece and walk back into my life and walk as if he had said yes. Walk as if his answer was yes, because it was, and it is. And so for you, I pray that, whatever it is that has been in your heart, your quiet, things that maybe you have even been afraid to ask God for, or, feeling like it was too small or too big or whatever for God, or maybe the things that you're not even sure if it's possible because you've never seen it done, or you've never seen it done in the way that you imagine it. I pray that you first admit it to yourself that that is what you truly desire, and then you admit it to God, knowing that he is your good father, and that, he will welcome your desires with joy. He will realign them if they're not in alignment with his will, and that his answer, at the end of the day, will be yes to those good things that he has for you in life. And so, to wrap it up, I'll say one of the symbols of this season for me has been a butterfly, for obvious reasons. Maybe I'll talk about that more at some point, but like, we know that a butterfly starts as a caterpillar, then it goes into this, basically shielded process of going into the cocoon and the chrysalis, and I don't know all the steps, but and then it is birthed into a caterpillar. It grows its wings, it comes out of that cocoon, it is then able to fly. It is no longer a caterpillar crawling on the ground. It is then flying in the air. It's a whole new creature made out of that same original creature, the caterpillar, right? And so, what is death to the caterpillar is a new life to the butterfly. It means wings and flying to the butterfly. And so Greece was another moment for God to truly, in my chrysalis season, and really birth me into a butterfly. And funny story, I was going to leave the place that I am in right now, and said, I'll record this video at home, but I just felt this conviction that God told me to record it right here in this park. I've been to the building that's around this park many a times, but I never came out here. And when I started walking up to the park, I just had to chuckle at the God wink, because look how God be working. I'm like, okay, God, you're so intentional. I see and I understand. And this is why obedience is so important. It's not like you're going to get in trouble if you don't obey. It's because God has beautiful gifts, and God winks for us if we will just obey, trust, and follow through. And that's what happened in Greece. I obeyed, I trusted, I followed through. I didn't know all the ways I was going to pay for it, but God said yes, and I knew there was going to be something special there, and it was. He met me there with this confirmation, and he did it again today. I just trusted, obeyed, and said, okay, God, I'll record this video out in the park. I'll drive. I actually had left, and I made a U-turn and came back, and now I understand why. And so anyway, for many of us, it is time for us to go ahead and spread our wings into that thing that God has already said yes to. It is time for us to leave the chrysalis. It is time for us to leave that space that we were in. It is now time to spread our wings and be. Butterflies are so beautiful. They like float through the air. It is time for us to enter into a new space of being that person that God has called us to be, being the authentic version of ourselves that matches this season that we are in. And another little God wink God gave when we were in Greece the first day, or really the first full day, I should say, that we were, preparing to leave, there was a white butterfly that flew through outside with us. And I was just like, okay, God, I see you. And literally on our last day, that same white butterfly, I don't know if it was the same one, but same species, came flying through our little pool party again. And I feel like that was just an affirmation that it is butterfly season, caterpillar season is over, cocoon and chrysalis season is over. It is time to fly into that space that God had been preparing us for, from the egg to the caterpillar to the cocoon to the chrysalis, and now time to fly as the butterfly, to pollinate those spaces, those gardens that God would place us in, and to do so with grace, with confidence, with love, and knowing that just like God takes care of the butterflies, that God will take care of us as we are floating and gloating through the air by his grace, by his power, not by our might, but by his. And so I pray this made sense. This was just a free flow video, as I think this is where we're going to be at from now on. Between this and writing, this is just how it's going to be flowing, for the time being, until God says to do something different. And so I pray this blessed someone, but even if not, this is just part one of, however many of my reflections from the encounter that I had with God and God's women in Greece, beautiful Mykonos, Greece. Even going there in itself in this season is a blessing within itself. But yeah, I pray that you guys have a healthy and wholesome day. I will talk to you soon. Love you bunches.